emergency management. We work very closely with the county and the state in our response. But a large element of that team effort are our citizens, and they have got to be prepared as well. And so that's what we're here today to ensure that everyone is prepared for storm season. And we will communicate. We're asking everyone to sign up for Alert Tampa, and then also look at our website for any information about the storm season and anything that they need to do. Understand where you live at too. There's a difference between an evacuation zone and a flood zone. So ensure that that citizens are aware of where they're at in the community. Know your neighbors. You may have to ask them, you may have to count on them in a storm situation. So we are asking everyone to take this very seriously, as is the situation in most storm seasons. The predictions are not rosy for this hurricane season. And so we have to be as prepared as we are. And we have done that through the years, not only preparing through our exercising, equipment, personnel, all of the training that we do, but also reviewing all of the after actions. Other communities that have gone through hurricanes, the lessons learned from there, the best practices, and we have brought those back to Tampa. So we feel that we are as prepared as we can possibly be. But again, I can't underscore the importance of the team approach to this, and that team includes every single citizen. Through my years in law enforcement and working a number of different storms, not only here in Tampa, but throughout the state of Florida, I have heard hundreds of reasons why people don't want to evacuate. But the one consistent statement that I hear from anyone who has weathered a hurricane after being told to evacuate, the one consistent statement is, "I'll never do that again." So you have to listen to the authorities. If the evacuation order is given, it needs to be heeded by our citizens. But we are prepared. I want to assure the entire community that we will do everything that we can in our power to keep our community safe. So I thank you very much, and Chief, take it over.
Thank you, Mayor, for those comments. A couple of things that we want to make sure that everyone understands from the fire rescue and emergency management side that would be most helpful in preparation is that Florida has the tax holiday, which runs from May 31st through June 6th, and everyone should take advantage of that. These items that are tax-free include batteries, weather radios, which are very, very important. The mayor spoke of knowing your evacuation zone and having a weather radio for alerts and evacuations, if those come, would be a very, very important part of that. Radios, flashlights, ice chests. So any of those items for the tax-free holiday would be beneficial for families in preparation of the storm season. I would like to reiterate a couple of things. It is not only the preparation, it is the response, but it is also the recovery. The recovery with regards to the community and your own families, and having a plan and preparing with these items that I just spoke of goes a long way for sustainment in how you manage that crisis that in many people's minds might be short term, but in actuality may be longer term when the power grid is impacted and things of that nature. So it is very important to be mindful of those. With that said, what storms have recently told us, we always were in tune with a 72-hour supply of food and supplies for the family. Storms recently have proven that it's not a bad idea at all, and we heavily suggest that you have 7 days worth of food. Again, when you speak of power outages, logistics, road clearing, you can't get to the store. The store may be impacted, so having those supplies at the ready for your family is extremely important as far as the preparation piece. Know that as we work as a team and we work together, there will be a certain point perhaps, that emergency services will be curtailed, or there might be a period of time where they will not respond at all, in the sense of high winds. When we get into the range of 45 to 50 mile an hour winds, we will be evaluating every element of the response, but there could be a reduced effort for that. That is the reason why you should know your own zone and seek shelter and safety when the call is made to do that. Make sure that the city will make sure that we have pre-staged equipment. Chief Dugan has, just as I have, we have made every effort to pre-stage equipment and ensure that the response is appropriate for any element that would be impacted for the city. We can't say enough to, as the mayor stated, take care of your family, take care of your neighbors, and ensure that you have all of the logistics in place to make those moves when the move is needed. Now I would like to bring to the podium Chief Dugan to talk about some police response. Chief.
Thank you. You know, in any emergency situation, it's very important that you follow the orders of authorities. You know, when the mayor, governor issue an evacuation order, that means that your life is in danger and it's time to evacuate. You know, we learned a tremendous amount from Irma. You know, if you recall, all the water in the Hillsborough River went out into the bay. And, you know, so much of Bayshore was nothing but mud. And people were out there congregating, and it turned into a bit of a game. And they don't understand the dangers. And if you don't think we dodged a bullet in Irma, then you just weren't paying attention. It's very important that once these orders to evacuate, that you have some type of plan of where you're going. But more importantly, after the storm, you have to figure out a plan of how you're going to reunite with your family if you were to get separated. And I don't think people think about that post-storm. If you get separated from your family, how are you going to find each other after the storm? If you have a contact outside of the state, somewhere else that you can both check in with that universal person, because we don't know of cell phones. We don't know what communications we're going to have. You know, people are relying on different apps to communicate, and that's important that they really have a plan also on how they're going to not only evacuate, but how they're going to reunite. And then speaking of reuniting and getting people back in the neighborhoods, if you recall, a few months back we kicked off our reentry program where there are hang tags. We'd like to remind people to put those hang tags in their cars so that when they need them to get back in their neighborhood, they know where they are. You do not need a hang tag to get back into your neighborhood, but it will speed up the process. If you have the hang tag, it will get you back into your neighborhood quicker. We are relying on people, like they said, to know their neighbors. From a police standpoint, we want you to know your neighbors because we want to know who belongs in that neighborhood and who doesn't belong in that neighborhood. If you have a loved one with a special need, if you recall, we have our special needs registry that you can get on tampagov.net. Special needs registry. We would like for you to register any family member that may have some form of a disability or may be vulnerable and needs our help. We would like for you to go ahead and do that. If you follow the city's website, our officers are out there on the street all the time, and we are constantly in communications with the cops on the street, and they will tell you what areas are flooding. We do that all the time. Every time there's a storm and there's a street that's impassable, if they go to the city's website, they can find that map and what intersections are flooded, and it's our cops out on the street who are giving us real information in a timely manner. And the last way, I'd like for you to remind people they sign up for our text alerts by texting Tampa Ready to 888-777, and they'll have more information on that, and that will give you more text alerts when a storm approaches. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Very important information that we have that you provided for us. So now, last but certainly not least, one entity that we certainly rely heavily on is the National Weather Service. So I would like to bring to the podium our meteorologist in charge, Brian Lemaire, for some additional comments and weather report for the upcoming season.
All right, thanks, Chief. And again, good morning, everyone. I just wanted to talk a little bit more about what we're looking at for this hurricane season. And before I do, I really want to emphasize how the City of Tampa Office of Emergency Management, Tampa Fire and Rescue, the Police Department, and Office of Mayor Jane Castor are probably one of the most prepared areas that I've seen in this area. And I've been here over 12 years, and we work together a lot as a team, especially as we look at June of 2012 with Tropical Storm Debbie, June of 2013 with Tropical Storm Andrea, June of 2016 Tropical Storm Colin. And you get my drift there. June for the Tampa Bay area is an active time of year. June and usually the September-October period. And so again, preparedness is key. That's what we're all focused on here today. And you probably heard about for this coming season that we're looking at El Nino. So El Nino is that weather phenomenon that kind of warms waters in the Pacific Ocean, and it usually reduces the number of hurricanes we see in our part of the world. But it doesn't remove the number of hurricanes and tropical storms that we see every year. And I'll tell a really brief story if we go back to years ago where the number of storms we saw in this particular year was 7, okay? 7 storms, and then we had 4 hurricanes, and out of the 4 hurricanes, 1 was a major hurricane. That's category 3, 4, 5. And if you can remember, that year was 1992. It was a below normal year, and we had Hurricane Andrew. So again, Hurricane Andrew did significant damage in the state of Florida. It was a below normal year. So that's why I always like to emphasize, forget about whether or not we talk about it's going to be an active year or a below normal year or a near normal year. It only takes that 1 storm to deliver an impact and to change our lives forever. So again, every year we have to prepare as if this is going to be the year that we see a hurricane. And as we heard already from Mayor Castor and Chief LaCicero and Chief Dugan, Hurricane Irma, we dodged a bullet. Okay, we dodged that bullet by about 30 miles. Now, when you think about the size of hurricanes, 30 miles you would think is not a lot. Sometimes the width of a hurricane can span from Miami to Tallahassee. But 30 miles is all that came between the city of Tampa from about 20 feet of water. And as Chief Dugan said, we lost water. Water came down the Hillsborough River and actually left Tampa Bay, and we lost about 6 or 7 feet of water. We call it negative surge. So again, 30 miles is all it took, and we were definitely in a safe zone. So again, I want to emphasize that every year we want to be prepared. Weather.gov is another website that you can use from the National Weather Service, and you can get a lot of information from us. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chief LaCicero.
Well, in closing, we hope that the respective leadership team has helped put the message out and has answered some questions. And at this point, we can open it up for a few brief questions for any of the leadership team here.
Mayor Castor, it's come up since the legislative session about the traffic during Hurricane Irma as people were attempting to evacuate. And one of the things that's been brought up is that a lot of people were evacuating out of the state who maybe should have stayed put. Can you talk briefly to exactly who should evacuate? And maybe, Chief, you might want to weigh in, but and when they should stay put or go to shelter.
Well, all of that information, as far as evacuations and issue orders to stay put, those will be given dependent on the circumstances of the storm. The message that we're trying to get here is heed those warnings, heed that instruction. There are a lot of things that the city government can control. There are a lot of severe devastation that it caused, and that just and then you can count on us to keep you appraised of so that information, we may not be able to get you that information, and that's again another reason to prepare as much as you can prior to and heed those warnings. And we have exercised evacuation routes. We're in a unique situation here where we have to evacuate Pinellas County through Hillsborough first. And once again, if you needed one more reason to heed those warnings, that's a great reason there, because we have to get Pinellas County out before we can get Hillsborough County residents out of the area. But we work very closely as the Tampa Bay area to prepare for these storms, and we've exercised and done as much as we can to prepare.
But is there a plan to mitigate the traffic as people are leaving the city?
Yes, we have contraflow plans. We have those plans in place. The wrench thrown into those plans are when people wait until the last minute and they don't heed the warnings when they're given.
Thank you.
Mayor Pastor, just to touch back on Hurricane Michael again, what was learned from that storm last October that maybe has changed the way we prepare for these hurricanes?
Well, I don't know that it changed the way that we prepare as much as it just amplified the need to pay attention and heed the warnings that are given and act upon those. You know, don't wait until the last minute and when the hurricane is about to hit to decide to go. And then also understand the unpredictability of the storms. You know, with Hurricane Charlie, I remember I was a major at the time, and I tell people I've been shot at, and I was never as scared as I was during Hurricane Charlie that time period. And it just, you know, made a dogleg right turn and hit Charlotte County. So there's the unpredictability of the storms as well, which is all the more reason to be as prepared as you can and understand that if you need to take immediate shelter, where that shelter is at, if it's in your home, if it's in a neighbor's home, or if it's in a public shelter, to be aware.
Maybe the police chief and the fire chief, you guys can weigh in on that Hurricane Michael and what kind of changes or lessons learned?
Well, the big thing is, as you know, the police department, we sent a contingency down south after Irma, and then we did the same for Michael. And our biggest problem up there we found was communications, because like the mayor had said, sometimes the towers go down, and then as they're cleaning up, and they were some of the companies were able to get their cell towers back up as they were cleaning up, trying to restore power to certain areas. They were knocking down power to those towers also. So that is the biggest thing, is the communications issues afterwards that we noticed out of that.
Is that something that you guys kind of worked on after seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, we've always known about that, but we are looking at improving our communications, how we're going to improve our communications within the police department, within the mayor and fire rescue and all emergency management. That is something that we have been working on, how we're going to do that without the cell phone towers.
Talk to them about the cows as well. We have those set up, the portable towers. Those are set up, already contracted, and we can bring those in to try to get self-service up as quickly as possible.
So that was, each storm has its own problems, and that was the big thing that we took out of Michael up north, was they had no way of communicating.
The one thing from Fire Rescue's point of view, we sent a joint contingent of urban search and rescue individuals that did searches in the Panhandle. And the one thing, to take a page from the Weather Service, when you think of hurricanes, you think of rain and wind. What was devastating, obviously you've seen the pictures, but from the recounting of stories of the men and women that were boots on the ground, was just the devastation of the surge. So when we talk about if there is an evacuation, the timeliness of the evacuation and appreciation of the water and surge, that solidified many things for us because it was absolutely devastating. You change that storm route in the Panhandle just a little bit, and I believe that the storm surge rises to somewhere in the 20-foot range, where it was in the 14, 15-foot range where it finally made a landfall at Mexico Beach. So that solidified for us the extreme amount of damage that can be done by surge.
You said something about 72 hours. You were talking about having food. Is it something that you want to change? Should they prepare for longer for food? Or?
you should be thinking longer terms, and this is ever emerging information, but we've seen information and after actions and situations of communities from recent storms. The standard package has been 3 days worth of food. When you consider logistics, road access, power, the devastation of the storms, you should really be thinking about sustaining food for about 7 days, just to play it safe. 3 days may not get us where we want to be if it is an intense storm. And again, the mayor said it succinctly, we can't predict Mother Nature. You saw in Michael, within a matter of 36 hours, the way that it ramped up and made a hard turn into the Panhandle. So it all goes back to where we started this conversation, in preparation and forward thinking about how to get yourself set up just in case the worst could happen. So yes, we're advocating you for the public to consider a longer food supply. That's what we're doing.
Any other questions?
Can you guys just speak a little bit more on the hang tags and those? I know you said they're going to speed up the process, but they're not going to allow you to get back to your neighborhood. They're just talk about the advantage of those and where they should be kept.
Well, if they keep the hang tags in the glove box of their car, they'll have it when they're returning back to their neighborhoods. And it's just a simple tag that's color coded that will hang from the rear view mirror, and it allows police to know and the emergency management people to know who belongs in that neighborhood. It makes it faster for them to be able to get in. If they don't have to have the tag, they're going to have to show their ID and wait in line, and it's going to slow down the process. You know, from a public safety standpoint, we want everyone back in their neighborhoods as soon as possible so that we can get, you know, order back in these neighborhoods. The neighbors know who lives there, who belongs there, and who doesn't. And it's just a way to try and speed up the process of returning everybody back to their neighborhoods so they can start up the cleanup. You know, we need people to be self-sufficient, and that's kind of what the fire chief is talking about. If you're relying on authorities to do everything for you, you might be in trouble because we may not be able to get to you. And so this is just a way for us to get everybody back in the neighborhoods as soon as possible so they can look out for each other and help each other. And it makes neighborhood security a lot easier when we have people back in those neighborhoods.
Where do people get those hang tags?
You can register on our website. They've already been mailed out to the citizens, but they can also get more off of our website.
We all set? If you need a Spanish speaker, we have Adri Colina over here. We can speak Spanish. Thanks, guys.
All right, thank you guys. Appreciate it.